So, we do have another bridge coming here in a minute, but right after the bridge, on your left, if some of you saw a gold church above some of the houses here, that's called Our Savior's Church. And right after the bridge on your left, you can see the full church, so I'll try to point towards it. If you want to get your cameras ready, please do so seated. Vi skal ind under en bro igen nu her, og på venstre side, efter broen, så kan man altså se vores frelserkirke. Det er altså en gyldne kirke, man kunne se over huset her, mens vi sejler gennem kanalen. So the bridge is coming up here, so please remain seated, and I'll point to exactly where the church is right after the bridge. Soto Suguri.
와, 꼭대기에 해가 꼭대기에 해가 딱 떴네.
해가 올리네.
저 앞에 갔다 왔어 아침에. 저 앞에 가서 비교하고 왔는데 아침에.
And if you weren't quick enough, you actually have a picture of the most photographed tree in Copenhagen. There's a Facebook group for the tree as well. So, this bridge here is going to be the second lowest bridge of the tour, so please remain seated again and watch your heads. Jeg er den anden laveste bro på turen nu her, så der sidder og bliver siddende, og så pas på hovederne. And I think I'll take the opportunity here to remind you, don't touch the bridges. I'm looking. And don't touch the bridge. Thank you.
저런 사람하고요?
야, 너안 찍기가 앉았는데 결국은 쇼텔이란 뜻이야.
아니 앉은 기가 큰 게 아니고 제가 원래 키가 커요. 내가 얘보다 더 클 걸.
You ask me something? Good? Okay.
이런 만들 때 원래 할수로가 뮤지컬을 한 거예요.
거기 살면서 베란다에
여자들
의자.
근데 채로 만든 나체 그건 안 된다. 얼굴은 저 뮤지컬 때문에. 여기는 카스보다 웨이팅 몰러라고 아까 주에다가
카스보가 그 맥주.
네.
회사에서 나왔고요. 회사에다가 그냥 월급 많이 줬어.
네덜란드는 의외로 독일에
가족 내 걔들도 사실
저기 여기 지나가면 서클 이렇게 돌아가면서 열려요. 저 주황색. 그 다음에 저 앞에 있는 게 블랙 다이아몬드 도서관. 일대 한번 잘.
너무 재밌겠다. 이렇게 호텔하고 관광 다니는 거 아침마다 아침에 하면서 보는 거 좋아해.
저기 아침 먹네.
그러니까 아침 점심인데요.
So, the bridge here ahead of us is called the Circle Bridge, designed by Ólafur Eliasson, the same architect who did the interior of the opera. This is actually one of the only bridges that opens up, not by going upwards or away from each other, but by pivoting outwards. So this part here, in front of us, pivots outwards to the harbor to open up. So if you do need to go under it, so please sit down. Soto Sukuri. Thank you. Men det er altså Silkebrun, vi skal under nu her, som blev designet af Ólafur Eliasson, selvfølgelig på siden af Hobro. Men det var den samme arkitekt, der tegnede indgang til operaen, og det åbner sig op langs det her stykke, hvor den her side altså åbner ud af. But ahead of us here, this is going to be the Black Diamond. So that is the Royal Library of Copenhagen. And the newest part here was built in 1999. So there's a 7% incline from the bottom all the way to the top. And there's also a bridge connecting the new part here to the oldest part of the Royal Library, which is going to be over 250 years old. In front of the old part of the library, there's also the Royal Library Garden, and all three of those structures are accessible to the public for free. So if the sun is going to keep shining today, I would highly recommend you visit the garden. It's really, really beautiful here in the summer. Men til højre nu her har vi så den sorte diamant. Det er så den nyeste del af det kongelige bibliotek. Der er en super den hælling og bunden hele vejen til toppen. Og hele bygningen er blevet bygget i 99. Der kommer også til at være en bro, som tager det over til den gamle del af det kongelige bibliotek, som er over 250 år gammel. Og udenfor at den gamle del af det kongelige bibliotek er den kongelige biblioteks have. Og alle tre af de her steder er altså tilgængeligt gratis. Så hvis solen forbliver ude, så vil jeg højst anbefale at tage ind til bibliotekshaven. And this entire island here on your right, so this is going to be an island, it's a man-made island called Slotsholm, so Castle Island, and this is where the original Christiansborg Castle was built on, and we'll see where that is in a minute. Men vi sejler så rundt lige om lidt om Slotsholm, som er hele den her ø ud til højre, som blev bygget af Christian 4 for at have det originelle Christiansborg Slot på sig. And we're about to take another turn here into the Frederiksholm Canal, and that is going to take us around the island I just talked about. Vi skal så ind i Frederiksholm Kanal nu her, så tager os rundt omkring Slotsholm, altså det vi lige så før. And there are going to be 9 bridges coming up, and I do need to remind you every single time, so just please bear with me here. Så der kommer altså 9 broer nu her, hvor jeg minder jer om at blive siddende. Der er I det eneste gang, så ja, tålmodighed er påkrævet. And the first one is coming up here, so again, please remain seated. Thank you very much. Så den første bro kommer nu her, så sid over på siddende. And the screams you can hear is going to be from a slide, so the blocks building here actually has a slide in the building, or like kids to play with. But this bridge right here does open up. So this one here opens up and closes. This one doesn't here. So all of the houseboats you can see in the canal here, if they want to have the boats serviced and cleaned underneath, the owners need to rent a crane to lift this bridge out of the water so that they can sail their boat out to the main harbor. And the bridge is coming up here, so please remain seated. Men den her bro kan altså ikke flytte sig, så alle husbådsejerne skal låne en kran for at løfte broen ud af vandet, for at kunne sejle deres båd ud til havnen. And on your right here, this is Christian IV's brewhouse. So remember, Christian IV is the guy who lost that many wars, but when he was king, the water simply wasn't safe to drink here in Copenhagen. So he built the brewhouse here to brew 10 liters or 2.6 gallons of beer for each federal employee as part of their daily salary. And well, soldiers are also federally employed, and soldiers having access to 10 liters of beer is probably why we lost 28 out of 32 wars under Christian IV. Men Christian IV's bryghus derovre blev altså bygget i 1612 for at brygge 10 liter øl til alle offentlige ansatte, fordi at vandet simpelthen bare ikke var sikkert at drikke her i København. Det var så bedre at vandet lavet om til øl, fordi at det fjernede bakterierne, og soldater, der selvfølgelig har tilgang til 10 liter øl om dagen, er nok derfor, vi tabte 28 ud af 32 krige under Christian IV. And we do have another bridge coming up here, so please remain seated. Men der kommer endnu en bro nu her, så vær sød og bliv siddende. Do you remember that before 1794, the royal family lived in Christiansborg? This bridge here and the entrance are of that original Christiansborg castle. So they were built in the 16th century, and when the Christiansborg castle burnt down, these two structures are the only thing that remain of the original Christiansborg castle. It's called the Marble Bridge here. Så marmorbroen her samt indgang er det eneste, der er tilbage fra det originelle Christiansborg Slot, hvor kongefamilien altså boede før det brændte ned i 1794, hvor de så flyttede til Amalienborg. But we do need to go underneath the bridge here, so please remain seated. Thank you. Så jeg sidder ved siden af. Tusind tak. And after the bridge here, on your right, the statues on the entrance are also from the original castle. So they are over 400 years old here. Så statuerne der på toppen er altså også over 400 år gamle. And the next bridge here, this is called the Storm Bridge. This is going to be the narrowest bridge of the tour. So all of your elbows, please keep them inside of the railing. Sorry, over there. Thank you. And here, and if you have any smaller kids outwards to the railings, just keep an eye on their fingers. We really don't want anything on the other side of the railings here. Så Stormbroen her er den smalleste bro på hele turen, så pas på armene og hold alt ind på båden. Hvis jeg har nogle små børn, så lige hold styr på armene, at de ikke er på ydersiden af gelænderet her. But this is called the Storm Bridge because in 1644, Sweden tried to storm the castle here, and we stopped them right here. Then we built a bridge and called it the Storm Bridge. Så Stormbroen hedder Stormbroen, fordi at Sverige prøvede at storme København i 1644, og vi stoppede lige her. And since this is over 350 years old, you can see some of the original drawings from the 16th century at the top of the bridge. Så dem der sidder helt bagerst, broen kommer virkelig tæt på lige lidt, når vi drejer ud, så lige. So for the people in the back, just tilt your head in a minute, because we are going to turn this way around. Since we're not sinking, I think we should give Henrik here a round of applause. On your right here, the curved part is still the original Christiansborg Castle, and this is what led into the horse stables of the royal family, where they kept 254 horses here. Today, they do still keep some horses, just only 20 at a time, but they do get trained and kept each day. Så den runde del her af indgangen er stadig tilbage fra Christiansborg Slottet, hvor der gik hvor det overgik til de kongelige hestestalde, hvor der var 254 heste. I dag så er der godt nok kun 20, men de bliver så trænet og vedligeholdt hver evig eneste dag. The orange building here, that is going to be the museum of a famous sculptor out of Copenhagen. So Berit Thorvaldsen was a famous sculptor out of Copenhagen, and he's actually the only non-Italian sculptor to have a statue in the Vatican. But when he got older, he came back to the city of Copenhagen, where he opened this museum here with some of his art. And when he got even older and was close to dying, his final wish was to be buried inside his own museum. So if you are going to visit the exhibition, you'll see his tombstone, where he's actually going to be buried underneath in the Thorvaldsen Museum here on your right. Thorvaldsens Museum til højre her, det er altså Berit Thorvaldsen, der har bygget det her museum. Og han er altså en, der lavede skulpturer, som kommer ud fra København, og faktisk den eneste ikke-italienske skulpturlaver, der har en statue i Vatikanen. Han så kom tilbage til København, da han blev lidt ældre, åbnede han selv det her museum, og hans sidste ønske var altså at blive begravet i hans museum. Det er altså derfor, man kan se hans gravsted i midten af museet, hvor han så også kommer til at ligge nedenunder. On your left here, this part is called Gamlestrand. That means old beach, and it is one of the oldest parts of the city. And at the end of Gamlestrand, you'll see the statue of the Bishop Absalon, who is the crusader who came to Copenhagen in the 11th century, and is said to be the founding father of the city as we know it today. Så hele byområdet her til venstre hedder altså Gamlestrand. Og for enden af Gamlestrand, så kan man altså se statuen af biskoppen Absalon, som man ligesom siger ham, der grundlagde København tilbage i 1100-tallet, da han kom til byen her. And we are going to see the Christiansborg Castle in a minute, and in the basement of the Christiansborg Castle, the ruins of the Absalon's Castle. So a castle over 900 years old, the ruins of it can be seen in the Christiansborg Castle. But please sit down. Suguri, sit down. Thank you. Broen kommer nu her, so please sit down. Alright, and to your right here, this is going to be the Christiansborg Castle. But it's not the one where the royal family lived. So this one was actually built in 1904, and that is because after the Christiansborg Castle, the original one, burned down in 1794, they rebuilt it. It burned down once again, and was then rebuilt. And yeah, the last time they rebuilt it was in 1904 by Frederick V. This is not where the royal family lives, but this is where the parliament is here in Denmark. So all of the politicians use this to discuss the Danish law. Men så nu her har vi altså Christiansborg-slottet. Ikke det originale, hvor kongefamilien boede. Det brændte jo nemlig ned i 1794, så blev det så genopbygget og brændte sig ned en gang til. Og så Frederik V i 1904 byggede det her, som er nu her, hvor Folketinget er den dag i dag. And you can actually see, so in front of the Christiansborg Castle, the statue here, that is going to be Frederick VII. And you can see on the different statues of the kings and the monarchs and all of the statues in Copenhagen, if they're displayed on a horse where the front two hooves are above the ground, that means that they were in war. So if the hooves are on the ground, that means that they didn't die in battle, right? Så Frederik den 7. her, han er på hesten, og fordi hestens fødder er på jorden, betyder det altså, at han ikke var i krig, da han døde. But there is a bridge coming up here, so please sit down. Thank you very much. Så broen kommer nu her, så vi sidder og bliver siddende. Tusind tak. So, on your right here, underneath this giant white tent, that is going to be the Stock Exchange of Copenhagen. So the Stock Exchange here is over 400 years old. It was built by Christian IV, and when he built it, he put a giant dragon on the roof of the Stock Exchange, which would protect the building against fires. So last year it burnt down, but they are currently rebuilding it, and it's supposed to reopen in 2029. Det er altså børsen, der ligger under det her hvidtelt her, som blev bygget af Christian IV for over 400 år siden. Og der var så en drage på taget, som skulle beskytte bygningen mod ildebrand, men desværre så brændte den jo ned sidste år i april. We do have another bridge coming up here, so please sit down everyone. Please sit down. Sorry, please sit down. Thank you. Så der kommer en bro igen nu her, så vær sød op i siden. Tusind tak. On your left, the black building there, that is the National Bank of Denmark. So the National Bank of Denmark was designed by Arne Jacobsen, who's probably the most famous architect out of Denmark. And he designed this back in 1971. It took them 7 years to build it. And right before they finished in 1978, Arne Jacobsen sadly passed away. So for that reason, this is a protected building today, which means that if they have to renovate it, they can't change the original look of the building. But since this is Italian marble on the outside of the building, the renovations cost alone of the current renovation are somewhere between $400 and $500 million. Men så nu har vi Nationalbanken, som blev tegnet af Arne Jacobsen tilbage i 71, og lige før de blev færdige med bygningen i 78, så døde Arne Jacobsen desværre. Og derfor er der sådan en beskyttet bygning, som gør, at hvis de renoverer det, skal de beholde det originelle look, som så også gør, at den her renovation koster lige omkring 3,7 milliarder kroner. And we do have a bridge coming up here, so please remain seated. Og der kommer en bro igen nu her, så vær sød og bliv siddende. Thank you very much.
아니 배멀미 하시는 분 없어? 배멀미 안 했어?
금을 저녁에 타면 사람이 꽉 차가지고.
So, if you remember, the royal family up until 1794 lived in the Christiansborg Castle, which was over there. When they lived there, they had a direct view of this warehouse here in front of us when it was being built. It's called Eigtveds Pakhus, and it's named after the architect Eigtved who built it. And the architect got a request from the king at the time to have this warehouse be as pretty as possible because the king had to look at it each day. So the architect flew the entire budget of the building on the two faces which point over to the castle. So the two different shades of stone along with all of these green doors and the white windows can only be seen from this side here. And in a minute when we'll pass it, I want you to look from this side and you'll see that it's just a blank rock with a few holes for windows. So Eigtveds Pakhus areas of Copenhagen, the famous author Hans Christian Andersen, well, this was actually one of the only places he could afford to live in Copenhagen, which is why he lived in the orange house and the red house here on your right side. And after the bridge here, I'll point to where his primary residence was here in Copenhagen. Number 67, I'll try to point towards it after the bridge. Men vi befinder os faktisk allerede i en kanal. Det er nemlig Nyhavnskanalen, vi befinder os i, som er over 350 år gammel, som blev gravet af danske soldater for at få en forbindelse mellem Kongens Nye Torv og havnen herude. Det var faktisk en af de billigste områder at bo i København, fordi at alle de her bygninger langs havnen, det var altså enten værtshuse eller bordeller, så alle sømændene kom her og var virkelig fulde hele tiden, så det var ikke et faktisk fedt sted at bo for 350 år siden. Det er også derfor, at H.C. Andersen kun havde råd til at bo her. Han boede nemlig i det orange og røde hus her på højre side, og så det længste tid, så boede han altså i nummer 67, som I kan se efter broen her. But the first bridge comes here in a minute. This is going to be the lowest bridge of the tour. So taller individuals, you might need to duck your head. And please just remain seated and watch your heads. Så det er altså den laveste bro på turen, der kommer nu her, så sid og bliv siddende og pas på hovederne. Soto Sukuri. Bridge coming up, watch your heads. Okay, good to know everyone's flexible. But this is the lowest bridge, so they're not going to get lower than this. But if you look out in front, the white house here, so there's going to be a white building with a black terrace fence. And it's Nyhavn number 67, that was where Hans Christian Andersen lived the majority of the stay here in Copenhagen. Så det er altså nummer 67, lige her på jeres venstre side nu her. Det er altså en hvide bygning med det sorte gelænder. Det er Nyhavn nummer 67, det var der H.C. Andersen boede det længste af sin tid, mens han var i Nyhavn.
저기 호갱이 노라집이네.
On your left side here, so the black building, this is going to be the Royal Danish Playhouse. So that is a theater. They opened back in 2008 with a play from Shakespeare. You might know it, it's called Hamlet. And Hamlet takes place here in the Kronborg Castle, which is located just 40 kilometers north of Copenhagen, in a town called Helsingør. Men til venstre nu her har vi altså det kongelige spilhus. Og spilhuset er altså et teater, der åbnede tilbage i 2008 ved et spil fra Shakespeare. Det var nemlig Hamlet, de startede med at lægge op. Og Hamlet tager altså sted her i Danmark, oppe i Kronborg-slottet. Bare 40 km nord for København, i en by, der hedder Helsingør. On your right side, this is called the Paper Island. And that's this specific part here. And back when the printed media, so all of the newspaper and magazines, had their paper storage here in Copenhagen, this island is where it was all stored. So that's why it's called the Paper Island. But today, these are actually going to be some of the most expensive apartments here in Copenhagen. So the going rate for the apartments out to the water is around $11 million for just around 300 square meters, right? And they're that expensive because you don't actually have to be a Danish citizen to buy them. So that means they're citizen exempt. Så højre nu her har vi altså papirøen, som har navnet tilbage dengang, hvor de printede medier havde deres papirreserver ude på den her del af Christianshavn. Men i dag så er det altså nogle af de dyreste lejligheder i København, altså i hvert fald dem ude til vandet. En af dem solgte til lige omkring 65-70 millioner kroner sidste år, og det er altså lige under 300 kvadratmeter. But in front of you there, this is the Opera House here of Copenhagen. So the opera was actually a gift from Mærsk Mc-Kinney Møller. He was the son of A.P. Møller, who founded the company Mærsk. And he gifted this back in 2002 when he hired the Danish architect Henning Larsen to draw the exterior of the opera. And he hired a Danish-Icelandic architect, his name was Olafur Eliasson, to draw the interior here. And in a minute, when we'll sail past it, you'll see that inside of the curved glass window there's going to be a red wall with 3 light installations, and that is supposed to resemble a heart, which the architect thought would symbolize the love we have toward the arts here in Denmark. Men til højre nu her, så kan jeg så se operaen, og operaen har så en gave fra Mærsk Mc-Kinney Møller, altså søn af A.P. Møller, som grundlagde Mærsk. Og han gav den her gave tilbage i 2002, hvor han altså fik den danske arkitekt Henning Larsen til at tegne ydersiden af operaen, og han fik den dansk-islandske arkitekt Olafur Eliasson til at designe indgangen. Så den runde glaskugle her er altså indgangen, og man kan se en rød væg på bagsiden af den, med 3 forskellige lysinstallationer, og det skal altså ligne et hjerte udefra, som er symbolisk for kærligheden vi har til kunsten her i København. And since there aren't any tall cliffs here in Denmark, when Red Bull comes to Copenhagen and wants to do a cliff diving competition, they actually use this roof right here. So there's 27 meters from the water surface up to the roof, and they have like this giant ramp out where the athletes are going to jump into the water here and perform tricks. Så siden vi ikke har særlig mange høje udspringningssteder her i Danmark, så Red Bull låner altså operaen til at holde deres cliff diving events, hvor de altså hopper og 27 meters højde, det er altså fra toppen af taget der, ind i vandet og laver deres trick. All the way out in the back, you can see a giant chimney. So that is going to be a waste plant. It's called Amager Bakke or Copenhill, and they burn 560,000 tons of waste each year. The architect who drew this, his name is Bjarke Ingels. He actually designed the roof to be used up to 90% of the roof to be used by the public. So there is a ski area on the slope downwards from the chimneys. You can actually rent skis and ski all the way down. You can also climb up the wall we're looking at. That's going to be 85 meters to the top. That's the tallest climbing wall in all of Europe. Så til højre nu her kan I så se Amager Bakke. Det er altså den skorsten, I ser ude til højre nu her. De brænder lige omkring 560.000 ton skrald hvert år. Og så kan man altså også klatre op af den side, som det ligger på. Altså en 85 meter høj klatrevæg, og den side det ligger på. Og modsat af det, Bjarke Ingels, som designer det her, havde krav om, at 90% af taget skulle blive brugt til at opkøbe missile into a housing area here on the same island where Copenhagen is, where they blew up 4 houses and damaged 120 others. And it's famous because people didn't really believe that was an accident, because one of the houses that got blown up was the ex-mother-in-law of the officer who fired the missile. They did an investigation and ruled it an accident because you had to have 2 separate keys to fire the missile, so the Danish media just referred to it as the Whoopsie missile. You can actually visit it as well, so this is going to be a war museum, and they're open between 8 AM and sunset. Men til højre nu her, så kan jeg så se flåden F-352. Den hedder altså Peder Skram, og er faktisk det hurtigste krigsskib under den kolde krig. Men det er virkelig kendt her i Danmark, fordi i 1982 kom så skød en harpunmissil ind i et sommerhusområde på Sjælland, hvor de så sprang 4 sommerhus i luften, og der kom skade på 120 andre. Og det var faktisk debatteret, at det var et uheld, fordi en af de huse, der blev sprunget i luften, var så eks-svigermoren af officeren, der skød missilen. Så undersøgelsen konkluderede faktisk, at det var et uheld, så de danske medier kaldte det bare også missil. And another ship here in the harbor, so the white one ahead of us, it's called Dannebro, and it's going to be the royal yacht of the royal Danish family. And Dannebro is the same name as the Danish flag. This is actually going to be the oldest royal yacht in the world. It was built in 1932. We're quite lucky to have them in the harbor today. They just came back from a month-long trip over to Greenland. Så højre nu her har vi kongeskibet Dannebro, og Dannebro er faktisk det ældste kongeskib i hele verden. Det blev bygget helt tilbage i 1932, og vi er faktisk lidt heldige om, at det er i havn, vi har lige været væk i en måned, og kommer tilbage, og der kan jeg cirka en uge. But Dannebro, the name of the royal yacht here, it's also the same name as the Danish flag, which you can see right here. The Danish flag is actually the oldest flag in the entire world. We have it since the 12th century, where it supposedly fell down from the sky in a battle against Estonia. But it sits here on the last active military part here of this island, which is called Battery Sixtus. And they actually control when the entire country of Denmark should raise the Danish flag and want to take it down again. And they do that by shooting these cannons here. So out to the harbor, they shoot the cannons in the morning, which is the signal to take the flag up. They shoot in the evening to take it down again. And they used to shoot at sunrise and at sunset, but in the June and July months here in Denmark, the sunrise is at 4:30 in the morning, so they got some complaints from the royal family who live on the other side of the water, so they stopped shooting at the earliest they're going to shoot, it's going to be 8 AM. Men Battery Sixtus derude til højre, det var altså det sidste militære område fra Christiansholm, og det er faktisk dem, der bestemmer, hvornår at Dannebro-flaget bliver hejst og sænket igen, og det gør de ved at skyde kanonskuddene der. Det gør de kl. 8 om morgenen, så det stiller langt for at tage op, og så er det solen igen. Workshops or art exhibitions and dance studios, and it's also where you'll find Refn. That's where the lights are over here. That is going to be the biggest street food market in all of Denmark. Så alt ude til højre her kaldes for Refshaleøen, og det er selvfølgelig det ligner halen på en rev, hvis du kigger på et kort. Og det var faktisk Danmarks største arbejdsplads tilbage dengang BW havde deres skibsplads herude, og det var den første firma til at bygge dieselbåd. I dag så er der rigtig mange kunstudstillinger og også egne værksteder. Så kan vi også finde Refn herude, hvor lyset er. Det er altså Danmarks største streetfood. There's also a pretty fun story about the crane over here. So if you can read it, it says bungee jump. That's because you can actually bungee jump from the top of this crane here on your right. And when they opened a couple years ago, they had a special promotion where if you showed up naked, you could bungee jump for free. So the first day they opened, there were 300 naked people in line over here trying to bungee jump for free. Så ja, hvis man kunne læse på kranen der, så står der bungee jump. Og det er sjovt nok, at man kan bungee jump ned ad kranen. Og den første dag, hvor de åbnede, så var der altså en lille promovering, der blev spredt, som hed, hvis du dukker op nøgen, fik du lov til at bungee-jumpe gratis. Der var så 300 nøgne folk, der stod i kø og prøvede bungee-jumpe. Første dag, de åbnede her. Jacobsen, so he's going to be the son of the founder of the Carlsberg Brewery. The Carlsberg Brewery was founded by I.C. Jacobsen. But he gifted her after seeing a theater play, which was based on the novel which Hans Christian Andersen wrote called The Little Mermaid. And he wanted to have a statue of the ballerina who danced the theater play for him. But the ballerina simply didn't want to model for the sculpture here. So it's actually only the face of the ballerina, which the sculptor then put on the body of his own wife. So it's kind of a Frankenstein's monster, if you think about it. Men til højre nu her kan vi så se den lille havfrue, som var en gave fra Carl Jacobsen, altså sønnen til I.C. Jacobsen, som stiftede Carlsberg Brewery. Og han gav en gave efter at se teaterstykket, som blev skrevet på på eventyret, som H.C. Andersen har skrevet, Den lille havfrue, hvor ballerinaen altså skulle have været motivet for den her statue. Hun havde så ikke lyst til at være model for statuen, så det er faktisk kun ansigtet på ballerinaen, som blev puttet på kroppen af konen til ham, der lavede skulpturen. You can actually see the face of the mermaid. With your ticket, you get 20% off the tour buses here, which will drop you off at Langelinje, so you can see the face of the mermaid. And if you're wondering if she's been vandalized, of course, she's been decapitated twice. She's had her arm ripped off, and every 4 years or so she gets doused with a bucket of paint. We are pretty quick to clean her up, so if you are going to see her, she should have all 4 of her limbs and without any paint on it though. Så selvfølgelig har hun været på rigtig meget hærværk. Hun er blevet halshugget 2 gange, og så også fået rykket en arm af desværre. Altså cirka hver 4 år bliver der kastet maling på hende. Men vi er altså ret gode til at gøre hende ren og samle hende igen, så det skulle gerne være i hendes hele figur, hvis man skulle se hende. And the Sydney Opera. So the opera in Sydney, the giant white Sydney Opera, was actually designed by Danish architect Jan Utzon, who also designed this blue building over there. So that was one of his first design projects. It's not quite as impressive as the opera. So when the royal family want to get onto the royal yacht here, they get to use these 2 huts here on your right. So they're called the Royal Pavilions, and I'm talking about the 2 huts here out to the water with the teal roofs. Those are called the Royal Pavilions, and the left one with the crown is used by the royal family to get onto the ship. The right one with the onion is used by all of their guests who aren't royal to get onto the ship. Så højre nu her kan vi se de kongelige pavilloner, det er altså de 2 små huse ud til vandet, hvor den venstre med kronen bliver brugt af kongefamilien til at komme ombord på Dannebrogsskibet. Og den til højre med løjet på toppen bliver brugt af alle deres gæster, som ikke er kongelige, til at komme ombord på kongeskibet. And right behind it, we'll have the headquarters of Denmark's 2nd largest company. So this is the headquarters of Maersk, which was founded back in 1904 by A.P. Møller. And it was actually his son, Maersk Mc-Kinney Møller, when he took over the company, that he made it the biggest shipping line in the entire world. And remember, Maersk Mc-Kinney Møller was actually the same guy who gifted the opera here, right? But the building here, this is supposed to resemble a shipping container, but the nickname we have for it here in Copenhagen is actually the building with 1,000 eyes, and that is because of the many blue windows here. Så til højre her kan vi så se hovedkontoret på Maersk, som er Danmarks andet største firma, som er så grundlagt tilbage i 1904 af A.P. Møller. Det var også, at hans søn, Mærsk Kienmøller, tog over på firmaet, at han gjorde det til verdens største logistikfirma. I dag så er hovedkontoret her altså kendt som bygningen med de 1000 blå øjne, men det originelle design skulle faktisk have været en container. And in a minute we are going to see the Amalienborg Castle. So I'll point towards it when you can see it, but it consists of 4 different palaces. So the 4 houses are called palaces, and together they make up the castle. And each of those 4 palaces were originally built in the 1750s for 4 rich families here in Copenhagen. But when the Christiansborg Castle burnt down in 1794, those families each gifted their home to the royal family for them to live in. It's right here, and our current king, he lives closest to the water on the right. That is called Frederick VIII Palace. We can also see that the king isn't home right now, otherwise there would be a flag above the palace here. But even though the royal family isn't home, the Royal Guard Exchange still happens each day at noon. Så til højre nu her kan vi så se Amalienborg. Og Amalienborg blev bygget i 1750'erne til 4 adelsfamilier her i København. Det er derfor, der er 4 palæer. Og da Christiansborg så brændte ned i 1794, så gav hver af de her familier så deres hjem til kongefamilien, så de kunne blive boende her i København. Og vores nuværende konge, Frederik, han går så længst til højre mod vandet. Det hedder Frederik den 8. palæ, og I kan så også se, at han ikke er hjemme. Ellers ville der altså være et flag over palæet. And right behind the Amalienborg Castle, you're going to see a giant dome. So that is going to be a church. It's called the Marble Church, and it was built by Frederick V, who started building it, but it finished just 146 years later. So the construction took 146 years. There's a statue of Frederick V in the middle of Amalienborg. Så det er så Marmorkirken, man kan se bag Amalienborg her, som blev bygget af Frederik V. Han startede i hvert fald på 246 år før det blev færdigt. And you can see a straight line going from the church. There's going to be the culture for the opera, the nature for the park in front of the castle, the monarchy for the castle, and religion for the church. Så der er altså en lige streg, der går fra operaen hele vejen til kirken, og det var for at repræsentere de 4 værdier af det danske kongerige, som skulle være kultur for operaen, natur for parken, foran Amalienborg, Amalienborg for kongehuset og Marmorkirken for religionen. And if you have any questions about the royal family here in Denmark, I was actually in the Royal Guard, so just ask me anything you want, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer.
여기 아니고 이쪽 아래. 이쪽에 섹션.
나는 계속 하나밖에 없잖아. 저쪽에서 봤는데. 카페랑
뒤에 있잖아. High five her, som på Georgetown. Det var en sejlbåd der.
So we're about to take a left turn into the Christianshavn Canal over here. They're actually named after the most famous king from Denmark, King Christian IV, who became king at the ripe age of 12 years old, was also the longest ruling king of Denmark. So he was nearly king for 60 years, and in those years he started 32 wars, which he lost 28 of. And the entire inspiration behind this canal system here was because the Dutch businessmen were the richest in the entirety of Europe, and he wanted to build a small Amsterdam to have the Dutch businessmen move here to Copenhagen. None of them did, but today the city part around the canals here are called Christianshavn and are over 400 years old, and probably one of the most vibrant parts here of the city. It's also behind these yellow houses here that you'll find the entrance to Christiania, which is the free town we have here in Copenhagen as well. Så vi er på vej ind i Christianshavn Kanal nu her, og det er altså opkaldt efter kong Christian 4, nok Danmarks mest kendte konge. Han blev nemlig regent som 12-årig, og var næsten konge i 60 år, hvor han altså startede 32 krige i de år, hvor han altså tabte 28 af dem. Udover det så havde han 21 børn med 14 forskellige kvinder, og hele inspirationen bag kanalen her var at få de rige hollandske forretningsmænd til at komme til København, fordi det var de rigeste folk på tidspunktet. Jeg er også bag de gule huse, man i dag kan finde indgang til Christianshavn, og hele bydelen af Christiania og hele bydelen af Christianshavn, altså over 400 år gammel. But we need to go underneath the bridge here ahead of us, so if everyone could please sit down, thank you very much. And right after the bridge, people live close to the water, so I'll turn off the microphone here as to not disturb them, but I'll do some laps, so any questions you might have, just feel free to ask me. Vi skal se ind under broen nu her, og efter broen, så er der altså folk, der bor tæt på vandet, så jeg slukker for mikrofonen. Men jeg går nogle ture frem og tilbage, så alle spørgsmål I har, endelig hvad sød at spørge, så skal jeg nok prøve at svare. So the bridge is coming up, everyone's seated. Thank you guys very much.
너에게 여유가 있다는 2년이라는 여유가 있다는 너 POPL이라고
직항이 생겼죠.
14시간이 훨씬 날 것 같아요. 더 이상 시간이 없네.
14시간. 물가가 너무 신기한 거 같아요.
아니, 네, 모나코에 가서 모나코에 살펴야지. 며느리가 그랬지. 어머니 가서 애들 데려갈게요.
그 팔을 너무 아프실 것 같은데.
Her til højre. Det var bygget af arkitekten Eichel, som da kongen, som stadig boede derovre, så spurgte om at ikke få pakhuset til at se så flot ud som muligt. Så alle de her grønne døre og hvide vinduer, samt 2 forskellige slags stener, er altså kun på de 2 sider, der peger mod slottet, fordi arkitekten løber så tør på penge. Så på den her side, så er det bare en helt lang mur med huller for vinduer, og en lille dør helt til højre. So here you can see the windows are just small peepholes, and there's one door all the way to the right. On your left, the teal building over there, that is going to be the old customs office of Copenhagen. So back when the sailboats would ship cargo through this harbor, they had to stop and declare how much the cargo was worth that they were traveling with to pay taxes on it, right? And to prevent tax fraud, the Danish government implemented officers who went on board of the ship and looked at the cargo, and if they didn't believe the captain on just how much he said the cargo was worth, they got the right to buy the entire shipload for the price they wanted to pay taxes on it originally. Later on, this is where the Sweden-Denmark ferry departed and arrived at, and in 2000 we built a bridge over to Sweden. It's called Øresundsbroen, and ever since then this has been privately owned. Men til venstre her kan I se Tolbohytten, altså den gamle Tolbohytte, hvor sejlbådene, der sejlede gennem havnen her, skulle stoppe ind og forklare, hvor meget de havde ombord i værdi, så de kunne betale en skat for at passere havnen her. Og for at undgå skattesvindel, så havde de implementeret officerer, som arbejdede på Tolbohytten, som så kom ombord og kiggede på det, de leverede. Og hvis de så ikke troede på kaptajnen, hvor meget han sagde, at det de leverede var værd, så ville de lov til at købe hele skibsværdien for den pris, de ville betale skat på det til at starte med. Så senere hen var det her, hvor Danmark og Sverige var en aftale, der kom til, og så i 2000 byggede Øresundsbroen. Siden da har det været privat arbejde. bridge here. This is actually going to be the largest retractable bridge in the world, and that's also where its nickname comes from. This bridge is called the Kissing Bridge because when larger sailboats need to go underneath it, it actually pulls apart like that. When the two ends they join, kind of look like they're kissing. So for that reason, this is called the Kissing Bridge, right? And supposedly, it brings good fortune to kiss underneath the bridge. So do with that information as you want. Vi skal se ind under Inderhavnsbroen her lige om lidt, som også bliver kaldt kyssebroen, fordi den altså trækker fra hinanden. Og når den så samles på midten, så ligner det, at de to broender de kysser, og derfor kalder vi den kyssebroen. Og det skulle, hvis de godt held at kysse under broen, så det er man mere end velkommen til at gøre. Into the Nyhavns Canal again, so this is where we came from. And at the end of Nyhavns Canal, that's where the King's New Square is. And there's actually a charity event which is held each year called the Royal Run, where the royal family partakes in 3 distance runs, so a 2.5, 5 and 10 kilometer distance run. And the king sails all the way here to the end of Nyhavn, where he docks his boat at the King's New Square, and where he in June ran the 10-kilometer run in just under 42 minutes. So that's probably the fastest running monarch of the world.
42.
Ja. Men på enden af Nyhavn her, det er altså der, hvor kongens nye torv er. Eller kongens nye torv. Og det er også der, hvor Royal Run bliver holdt hvert år. Så for et par uger siden, tilbage i juni, så sejlede Frederik, altså en lille sejlbåd, hele vejen fra enden af Nyhavn, hvor han så lagde til ved det kongens nytorv og løb 10 km løbet på lige under 42 minutter. Så nok verdens hurtigste konge. So, remember, this was the lowest bridge of the tour. So if everyone could please sit down. Thank you very much. Det er altså den laveste bro, der kommer nu her, så der sidder om siddende. And some of you might need to watch your head as well. This is the lowest bridge of the tour. Så ja, der er nogle af jer, der lige skal passe på hovedet. Det er altså den laveste bro på turen her. But it is right after the bridge on your right where the colorful houses are here in Nyhavn. And the story behind each of these colors is actually pretty funny. So back when the brothels would stay here, the sailors apparently got way too drunk to read the house numbers on the different houses. So to remember which brothel they were staying at, the brothel owners painted each brothel a different color so the sailors would remember where they were staying overnight. Det her er de farvige huse af i Nyhavn, og historien bag de forskellige farver er faktisk ret sjov, fordi at tilbage dengang modellerne var her, så blev sømændene åbenbart fulde til at læse husnummeret på modellen. Så modelejerne tegnede alle husene i forskellige farver, så at sømændene kunne huske, hvor de sov henne over natten. And even though it's famous for these houses, on your right we also have the skinniest house of Denmark, number 4 here, known as the Pencil House. Så selvom at Nyhavn er kendt for de farvige huse, har vi faktisk også det tyndeste hus i Danmark der. Nyhavn nummer 4 bliver kaldt for Blyerthuset. And with that, we are about finished, so we'll set our, we'll dock here in a minute, and I'll fasten us twice. So from the inside of the boat, and then from the outside, and I'll give you a thumbs up when you can leave the boat. And thank you for not hitting your bridges. That saves us here a bunch of paperwork, and enjoy the rest of your day here in sunny Copenhagen. Thank you very much.
갑자기? 헤어지는 바람에
여기 서울형 대표님 시드줘요 시드줘요 선생님 아니에요?
밥 먹을 때 테이크아웃으로 10유로만 더 10유로
천자버전에서 좀 지어줘 그래.
서울 사진 한 장만.